yourself because no one out there will save you. I can't remember the other words. The first Daniel Craig Bond. Cause the coldest blood runs through his veins, and you know his name. Casino Royale coming out. Last one came out in 2002 or 1 before this one. Comes out about 4 years on the heel of the last Pierce Brosnan James Bond. Casino Royale obviously introduces us now to Daniel Craig as James Bond, and him actually in his younger years, so to speak. Him only just becoming a 00, gaining that 00 number. Pardon me. And basically him possibly finding the one true love of his life with Vesper Lynn. It's in the later implied it's Madeline, Mr. White's daughter. Inspector is supposedly his true love, whatever. Him kind of forming his view of the world, so to speak, and where it comes from. Plus dealing with Le Chiffre, and through him, ultimately we know he's dealing through Spectre. So how does this stack up? Well, for me, this was definitely both a change of course as it went for a much more grittier, much more realistic version of Bond, versus the gadgets and, kookiness we got from like the 80s and 70s, and the Pierce Brosnan era, which definitely had some. Although I do not like the Pierce Brosnan era of Bond very much. At the same time, though, it still delivered basically what we expected with Bond. A suave, kind of sexy, action-packed tone in many ways, while still completely re-energizing the franchise in its own way. A lot of that comes from Daniel Craig, who probably comes as the closest interpretation to Bond from the comics that we have seen to date. Bond in the comics is... excuse me, guy, yeah, I'm going. I apologize. Bond in the comics today, as we know him, is basically a sociopath. I mean, he's described as a good-looking guy, but, he's only got an edge to him. And I would say that is kind of Daniel Craig, especially as Daniel Craig has gotten older, to a T. A very good-looking guy, but he's not your stereotypical pretty boy. There's a gruffness to him. And it really plays out just in his first appearance, where I think Dryden is the name of the character, where we first meet him. And it's basically showing us how he got the 00 moniker, how he got his ID handle, if you will. And how he ultimately became 007. And that's a great opening to a movie. That's like one of the better Bond cold opens, where we just see him there, sitting in there. How did he die? I can't remember, was it not informant? Sorry, I got a bit of a headache all of a sudden. It's really weird, and it's like right behind the eye, and it's right there, and it's just kind of irritating. I'll probably take a shower after this to kind of make it go away. But anyway, what I was going with, your contact, not well. And then you see him basically drowning the guy in the sink, which doesn't work anyway. And the guy just pulls the gun out on him. He's like, we barely got to know each other. I know you keep your gun. That's one thing. Made you feel that. Well, don't worry. The second one's is the second one's is far more easier. Is far more boom than just shoots him. Yes, considerably. Like, it's far easier after the second kill. And I think this is the first Bond that we get that really kind of sold the action that Bond is supposed to be able to do. Because he's a younger guy. He's probably the most fit Bond we've had. Like that running sequence in Madagascar, which I believe it's Madagascar. Isn't that where they are? I could be wrong on that. I could have swore it was Madagascar, which is weird because they were having a mongoose cobra fight, which was odd. You can import snakes and stuff like that. And that whole scene is fantastic. Like all the action sequences, when you really break it down, you get the airport scene where he's got to stop the ship from being blown up. You get the opening scene in Madagascar. Again, I think it's Madagascar. I apologize. You get the car chase later on in the movie, the hallway corridor stairwell fight in the middle of the film, and then you get the final fight in Venice, if I'm not mistaken. So it's definitely a very action heavy film, but it's paced in a way that it never feels like there's too much action. It just feels right. You know what I'm saying? And oh man, I'm suddenly not feeling well at all, which is really weird. And I know for a fact it's because of this damn headache. It's making me feel warm and a little queasy, if I'm going to be honest. So I mean, I'm planning to record like a whole bunch of videos today for later in the week, but I'm gonna have to probably take a rain check as soon as I'm done with this video and take a shower so I feel a little bit more refreshed. Um, Anywho, what I was saying was, but Bond's only as good as his bad guy, and that holds true because there's been a lot of bad guys and in a lot of Bond movies. But Le Chiffre, played by Matt Nicholson, is definitely one of the more capable Bond villains in my opinion. Like the torture sequence with Bond, like I can only think of a handful of actual torture sequences, not like interrogation sequences, torture sequences. That because I mean you torture for information, sure, but that can just be interrogation. I mean like a legitimate torture scene where Bond is actually being hurt, and you know is being tortured. I can think of the scene from World's Not Enough, which is also kind of nerve-wracking in its own right, unsettling in its own right, but for a different way. Like the whole idea of like something pushing against your neck and basically going to break your neck. Like that, like I just did that right now, pushing a bit on my back of my neck. That it kind of hurts, just not really hurts, but I can feel the pressure. And if something just keeps going and going, oh yeah, I can feel a sense where that would seriously be painful. But let's be honest, you think a torture scene in James Bond, you think basically getting your nutsack just brutalized by a rope or not, and just poof, poof, ah! And yet they still managed to make that fight. Like, I got a little itch down that. No, to the right, yes. Now the whole world's gonna know you died scratching my balls. Like it's so funny. And the fact of the matter is, like, well, obviously it's not really happening, but for someone to withstand, especially a guy, to withstand that kind of pain and brutality on his nuts is like, oh man, the amount of will and drive he's got, like, oh man. Now after a while, I would probably just go numb down there for the sheer amount of pain that's going on. Like, oh man. But I mean, one of the big things about the movie too is, as I said, Mads Mikkelsen, and Mads Mikkelsen, I'm sure is a nice guy in real life. I'm sure all these guys are nice guys in real life. Plays creepy, intense, calculating perfectly. Like this is a guy that when you look at him with the messed up eye and the weeping blood, it's like the weeping of blood is just from a malformation of the tear ducts. Nothing sinister. He's like the perfect Bond villain. And the card scenes in the movie, obviously, there's a bunch of YouTube videos that have debunked, not debunked, but have explained how unlikely that scenario at the card table really is. Like the statistical anomaly that is that scene. But that doesn't take away from the fact it's still a fantastic scene to watch. Like the tension is there. And we saw Bond lose once already. We saw that Bond is flawed in this movie. And that it really gets hammered home that he isn't perfect. And he's going to make mistakes in his early days. And the fact he even says, like, maybe it was ego or whatever, but you know I can beat this man. And sure enough, he comes back and beats Le Chiffre. I do like the fact he just tips the dealer like a $500,000 chip, too. So, I mean, Mads Mikkelsen's great. Daniel Craig's great. It is action-packed. It is tense. It is funny, too, in parts, too. Like, when you need a decent laugh, get a decent laugh. It's got actors that show up that I love. The guy who plays Mathers. I should have it right here. Let's see. Mathis. Giancarlo Giannani. Who was also in Hannibal. He shows up now. I love seeing that guy pop up. And he shows back up in Quantum of Solace for a little while. I love seeing when that guy shows up. And obviously you get Vesper Lynn played by the always beautiful Ava Green, and she's great in this film as well. You could really understand why Bond would fall for this person. Because she was just as quick witted as he was, but in different ways. She was just as snazzy, but she was intelligent, and she had her own mysteries as well. And it really got hammered home how these two could end up together, which does make it sad that they don't end up together. But if you're looking to make a franchise, Bond can't end up with the girl in the first movie. So there you go. And then of course it ends with the great, because he never says it in the original and throughout the entire movie until Mr. White picks up the phone. He's like, "Hello, boom, who's this?" Boom, gets shot in the leg. The name's Bond, James Bond. He's like, Jane's like, "Oh, that's a damn good ending, man. That is a damn good ending." Just comes out in the great suit and the guns. Perfect ending. So I mean, Casino Royale, it's definitely in my top. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't in my top 10. This one's definitely in my top 10 of Bond films ever. Where places I couldn't tell you for certain, but it's probably in the top 10, almost certainly. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. Do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, superhero, magic, whatever, anything to do on the channel. Put that in the comments below as well. I'll get that at some point. So I'll be back later with the videos that need to get put up. Right now, I am going to do something about the headache I currently have. Yeah, and I think I know part of it. It's because I know I need to go to the dentist. A toothache can actually cause you a headache, and I think that's what I kind of got going on right now. But I'm going to take some Advil, and I'll be back with hopefully to do the other videos in a little while. So later, folks.